All right. Well, I'm excited because we're going to talk a little bit about money and specifically what Jesus has to say about money in Luke chapter 16. Now, I said that I'm excited, but I don't know how you respond when you hear that we're going to talk about money. Some of you might be like, "Yes, we're going to talk about money. I love talking about money." Others of you might be like, "What? I know you Christians, you're always talking about money, and really what you're going to say is that you want my money." And there might be others of you who are like, "No, no, man, I don't want to talk about money. That's like my least favorite subject in the world. I hate thinking about money." But if we're going to be faithful Christians, we actually have to talk about money because Jesus talked about money a lot. In fact, I was a little surprised this week to read that almost half of his parables have something to do with money. And I could give you a lot of crazy kinds of statistics, actually. There's more in the Bible about the subject of money than there is about an important subject like prayer. Apparently, if you took all that the Bible has to say about money, all the verses, and you put them together, it would equal in length the 13 epistles of the Apostle Paul. There's a lot in the Bible about money, and a lot of what's in the Bible about money is actually in the gospel. Someone has said that 1 in 10 of every verse in the gospel is about money, which doesn't mean, obviously, that money is the most important subject in the world. But what it does mean is that if we're going to be faithful students of God's word, we have to think about money, especially if we're going to be faithful students of the Gospels, and especially if we're going to be faithful students of a gospel like Luke, because Luke has a lot to say about money. Luke has some of the most pointed things to say about money. And I'm glad personally that Jesus has so much to say about money. For one thing, because he's proven his agenda is our good, and we know that we can trust him when he talks to us about our money. For another, because money is such an important part of our everyday lives. I know that we could be all spiritual and say we have nothing to do with money, but we all have something to do with money. And what we have to do with money is spiritual. It's not removed from faith, like here's our money and here's our faith. No, the way we use our money has a lot to do with our faith. And yet sometimes it's a little hard for us to know what it has to do with our faith, and specifically how to apply our faith when it comes to our money, because we're being told so many things about money, and a lot of the things we're being told actually are wrong. We're hearing about money from our parents. We learn about money from our friends, from our spouses, from music, from television, from movies, from politicians, from teachers, and sometimes from preachers. Everybody has an opinion about money, and a lot of those opinions actually are wrong. Totally wrong, some, partly wrong, others, but wrong. And if we're not careful, a lot of those ideas, those wrong ideas about money, end up shaping our lives more than Jesus. And so I think it's important for us to go back to the Gospels and to look at a gospel like Luke, at a chapter like Luke chapter 16, and see what Jesus has to say about money, because we really, really need his help. Some of us, we think we're good with money, and maybe we are, but our ideas of money are not shaped by God. And others of us, we just aren't good with money, honestly. And yet all of us can get better. We can get better when it comes to money. And if we get better in the way we use our money, it's going to have a huge, huge impact on us spiritually. It's going to have a huge, huge impact on our lives right now, of course, but it's also going to have a huge, huge impact on our lives forever. Which is why Jesus tells the story he does in Luke chapter 16. And I'm excited about us spending some time looking at that story the next time we get together.